What happens when a routine interaction between the police and a civilian turns out to be more than what they expected? A woman just going about her day, walking down the street, minding her own business. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? But then the unexpected happens. A simple encounter with the police quickly spirals into something far more intense. In this video, you'll learn how a casual, even uncomfortable situation between a civilian and the police took a shocking twist. But here's the twist you didn't see coming. The woman at the center of it all wasn't just an ordinary passerby. She was an FBI agent, and the police had no idea who they were dealing with. Stick around as we reveal how this interaction unfolded and what it teaches us about assumptions, respect, and the power of staying calm under pressure. By the end, you'll discover lesser-known facts about how law enforcement officers sometimes misread situations based on stereotypes and appearances. Plus, we'll show you why this seemingly small moment became a turning point for both the woman and the officers involved. So if you want to uncover what happens when appearances deceive and why this encounter was more than just a routine stop, make sure to watch until the end. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this story unfolds. It's a sunny afternoon, the kind where the air is warm and the streets are filled with the hum of city life. People are out and about going about their daily routines, and everything seems peaceful. In the middle of it all, a woman walks confidently down the sidewalk, seemingly just another face in the crowd. She's dressed smartly, a blend of elegance and practicality, as though she's heading somewhere important. Her stride is steady, and her presence stands out just enough to catch your eye, but not enough to make anyone think twice. She's a black woman, well put together, with a calm demeanor that matches the quiet buzz of the afternoon. What no one knows, not even the officers who are about to cross her path, is that she's far more than just a well-dressed civilian. She's an FBI agent, but from the outside, she looks just like anyone else walking the streets. The confidence she carries is not only the result of her appearance, it's the result of her years of training, knowledge, and experience that no one can see. As she moves through the crowd, she remains completely unaware of the looming encounter that will soon alter the course of her day and the officer's perception of her. As the woman continues her walk, she doesn't notice the two police officers standing by the corner, quietly observing her. They're engaged in a routine patrol, their eyes scanning the crowd for anything unusual. But as their gaze locks onto her, something shifts. It's subtle at first, but there's a noticeable change in the way they start to move. The woman, still unaware, walks on with a sense of ease, her mind occupied with the day ahead. But the officers begin to close the gap. At first, it's just a brief glance, a passing moment of recognition. They spot her, an attractive, well-dressed woman who stands out a bit, but not in a way that's immediately concerning. However, there's a shift in their behavior. One of the officers glances over to his partner, a silent exchange happening between them. They begin walking in her direction. Their approach isn't sudden, it's calculated. One officer moves slightly ahead, while the other falls behind, creating a subtle but intentional barrier around her. As they draw closer, the woman notices the shift in their posture. They're not simply walking near her, they're adjusting their angles, positioning themselves in a way that doesn't feel right. Her instincts kick in. At first, she tells herself, it's nothing, just a coincidence. After all, police officers are part of the landscape, especially in busy areas like this. But as they continue to move in closer, the woman's senses sharpen. She starts to feel a discomfort creeping up her spine. The officers are too close now, their presence starting to feel like an invasion. They've closed the distance to the point where their body language becomes noticeable. The way they linger near her, walking in sync, starts to feel intrusive. One officer is just a little too close, walking slightly behind her, matching her pace with unsettling precision. The woman can feel the weight of their eyes on her, even if she doesn't look directly at them. The air around her changes. The safety of her surroundings begins to fade. She tries to remain calm, taking a deep breath, reminding herself to stay composed. But the officer's approach is persistent, unyielding. As the woman moves to step around a group of pedestrians, One of the officers edges even closer, his hand brushing against her arm in what could be dismissed as an accidental touch. It's not an accident, though. It's deliberate. There's no apology in his movement, no recognition of the personal space she's entitled to. The woman's body tenses. She feels the officer's hand linger a moment too long, the contact barely noticeable, but unmistakably inappropriate. It's a touch that goes beyond casual. The discomfort inside her grows. She continues to walk, trying to move past the situation, but the officers are relentless. They move with her, matching her steps, invading her space even more. One of the officer's hands brushes against her back as he tries to get closer, as if trying to get her attention, though she knows better. She senses their judgment, their assumptions based on her appearance, based on the color of her skin, based on nothing more than the perception they've created of who she is. She can feel their gaze, their silent assumptions about her, a woman of color, well-dressed, walking down the street. The officers don't know who she is. They don't know her background, her training, her position. But to them, she's just another civilian, a potential subject of their attention, possibly even someone to question. And now they're treating her as though she's a threat, making her feel unsafe. Their behavior is beginning to cross the line from professional to invasive. With each step, the tension builds. She remains calm, though the discomfort is impossible to ignore. The officers are so close now, it feels like they're circling her, as if she's being trapped. The silence between them is deafening. They're still unaware that they're dealing with someone far beyond their expectations. As the officers continue to close in on her, the woman takes a slow, deliberate breath. She senses their unease, their assumptions, and she remains steady, refusing to show any hint of panic or frustration. Despite the increasing intrusion, she doesn't break her stride, her eyes scanning the situation with calculated precision. She knows this is a game of patience. Every move she makes is measured. Her calmness in the face of rising tension is a shield, one that masks the storm brewing inside. The officers, still oblivious to her identity, exchange glances as they draw even closer. They make no attempt to hide their interest now. One of them speaks, his voice cutting through the air. "Excuse me, ma'am, can we have a word?" His tone is direct, but there's an edge of uncertainty. The woman doesn't flinch. She looks up at him, her expression unchanging. Her eyes meet his, and for a moment she lets the silence hang between them, giving him no immediate response. The officer stands there waiting for her to react, but she doesn't. She knows what's coming next. This is the moment of truth. She's in control. Without warning, the woman reaches into her purse, her movements slow, deliberate. She pulls out a small leather wallet, its edges worn but well cared for. She flips it open, revealing a badge, the emblem of the FBI shining in the light. The flash of authority is subtle, but it speaks volumes. She doesn't say a word at first. She just holds it there for a brief moment, allowing the officers to process what they're seeing. The silence stretches on, the tension thick in the air. The badge, gleaming in the sunlight, says everything they need to know, but it doesn't stop them from looking at her in disbelief. The officer, who had approached her, stares at the badge, then back at her, his mouth slightly agape. The other officer, still processing, steps back, as if to give her more space, his posture shifting from aggressive to defensive. The realization hits them both at once, but it's clear they are still processing the full weight of the moment. Her calmness remains unshaken. She doesn't rush to speak or defend herself. She lets the shock settle in, watching as the officers' faces transform from suspicion to confusion, then to a reluctant understanding. They had assumed she was just another civilian, another person to question, perhaps even intimidate. But the woman before them is anything but ordinary. Her steady gaze never wavers as she waits for them to make sense of it. It's almost as if she's expecting this reaction. After all, she's been trained to keep cool in moments like this, to never allow emotions to cloud her judgment. After what feels like an eternity, one of the officers stammers, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We didn't know. We didn't mean to." His words trail off, clearly realizing the extent of their mistake. The other officer shifts uneasily, his earlier confidence now replaced with a quiet apology, though no words escape his mouth. The woman stands there still composed and watches the confusion on their faces fade into embarrassment. She doesn't need to say much. The badge, the way she holds herself, speaks for her. There's no need to elaborate further. The situation has already shifted dramatically. For a moment, the officers don't know what to say. It's a humbling silence, one that speaks volumes. They realize that their assumptions about her based on nothing more than the color of her skin and their own biases were entirely wrong. And they've just learned an important lesson, though it came at the expense of their pride. The moment the officers realize who the woman is, the atmosphere shifts dramatically. The air, which had felt thick with tension just moments ago, now feels heavy with embarrassment. The officer who had been leading the interaction, his face reddened with realization, takes a step back. The confidence that had once fueled his approach to her now seems misplaced, even childish. He's no longer the one in control. Instead, he's become the subject of quiet scrutiny. His colleague, who had been standing slightly behind, looks over at him, their eyes wide with disbelief. The woman stands tall, unfazed by the shift in dynamics. She allows the silence to linger, her presence commanding. Her posture alone speaks volumes. She's in charge now. She's not rattled, not defensive. In fact, it's clear that the officers are the ones on edge, trying to process the reality of the situation. They had crossed a line, and now they were faced with the uncomfortable truth that they had misjudged her entirely. One of the officers clears his throat awkwardly, avoiding eye contact. The other, still grappling with the shock of the reveal, mumbles an apology, but it lacks the sincerity needed to undo the damage. The woman's response is quiet but firm, her voice calm yet full of authority. "You should be more careful with how you approach people," she says, her words hanging in the air. She doesn't need to shout or raise her voice. The weight of her tone alone is enough to make them reconsider their actions. She could let the situation slide, ignore the intrusion, and continue on her way. But she doesn't. Instead, she calmly reaches for her phone, pulling up the relevant department to file a formal complaint. Her actions are deliberate, each movement purposeful. She's not here to make a scene, but she's making it clear that what happened was unacceptable. Her ability to take control of the moment without raising her voice or displaying any unnecessary anger is a lesson in power and professionalism. The officers stand there now, completely on the defensive. Their earlier bravado has evaporated, replaced by an uncomfortable tension. One of them shifts on his feet, awkwardly tapping his radio as if to avoid eye contact, but the woman doesn't let them off the hook so easily. She continues her call, speaking calmly, but with authority. The call is short, matter of fact, and there's a quiet power in it. She's making sure the incident is properly documented and handled, ensuring that their behavior won't go unaddressed. As she finishes her call and pockets her phone, the officers realize they've not only made a major mistake, but they've also learned an invaluable lesson. One that they won't soon forget. The weight of their error is hanging in the air between them. The woman hasn't raised her voice, hasn't accused them of anything, yet the impact of the moment is undeniable. The question lingers in the air. What could have gone differently? What if the officers had been more aware, more respectful from the beginning? What if they hadn't let their assumptions cloud their judgment? What if they had taken the time to understand the person they were interacting with instead of rushing to conclusions based solely on appearance? In the end, the woman's composure speaks louder than any accusation. She didn't need to get angry or escalate the situation. All she had to do was stand her ground, calmly asserting her authority. It's a moment that reminds us all of the power of respect, awareness, and the importance of not rushing to judgment. The officers had the opportunity to choose differently, and it's clear from their reactions that they regret not doing so. How many people face similar situations every day where assumptions are made based solely on their appearance? It's a harsh reality that too often we judge others without truly understanding who they are. or what they stand for. In a world where assumptions and stereotypes can shape interactions, it's crucial to remember the importance of respecting personal boundaries and treating everyone with dignity regardless of their race or appearance. This incident serves as a powerful reminder appearances can be deceiving. The woman in this story wasn't just a bystander, she was an FBI agent. Yet she was judged by her outward appearance, and assumptions were made before anyone took the time to understand her. This is a moment for us all to reflect on our own biases, on the way we treat others, and how we can do better moving forward. Never judge a book by its cover, and always treat others with respect, no matter their background or how they look. Let this story be a reminder to pause to think before making assumptions and to approach others with openness and understanding. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. Let's continue to challenge the stereotypes and build a world where respect comes first. Thank you for watching. The story shared in this video is a fictional scenario created for entertainment and thought-provoking purposes. It is not based on real events or individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons or situations is purely coincidental. The video aims to highlight important themes such as assumptions, respect, and the need to treat others with dignity. Thank you for understanding.